Hello, Internet. This is Kopitiam Council. New episode for this new week. It's been 2 weeks, Adi, since we last recorded.
Yeah, I think we have to give an apology. We were supposed to record last week, but I was on holiday. If anyone knows. But now I'm back and ready to take on. A lot of things happen, Hafiz. I wish we had time to cover them while they were still hot issues, but unfortunately, here we are. Hopefully, we can find another system where we can try bang out these episodes even while we are away from our computers. But I think without further ado, what do we have that we missed out on that we really wanted to talk about, Hafiz?
But I think for this particular episode, on this topic, the thing that we're going to talk about, I think there's an advantage here for us to wait it out a little bit, because if you just gonna talk about it when the iron is hot, you might be outdated within the next 24 or 48 hours, because a lot of things happening in Middle East, actually directive or certain kind of remarks from the President of the United States, Donald Trump. And let's just get into it. What are we talking about?
We're talking about the current situation, conflagration between Israel and Iran, missiles being thrown at one another. We've probably seen the videos of the Iron Dome intercepting Iranian missiles. Vice versa, we've seen Israeli missiles landing in places like the Middle East, Iran, people evacuating, going to shelters. So it's a very messy situation right now. The Americans have stepped in. President Donald Trump, I feel like we always talking about him every single week. I'm honestly getting it's getting quite ridiculous, isn't it? Like, if you notice, the trend is that we talk about something mild like terrorists, and then suddenly escalation to full-scale military operations, and it's crazy within this half a year. So what we can see is an escalation of conflict. The tension between Iran and Israel is not something new. It's something that's been brewing for the last many decades. They've engaged in proxy wars with one another. You can make even the case that Israel is also a proxy for the Americans or vice versa. So where are we right now? Because it's quite the mess, isn't it, Hafiz? And now we're only seeing the full gravity of the situation, aren't we?
Yeah, it's where we're right now. I did, like, no one knows, especially what Trump now in the equations right now. Like, this is a president that said we will never start a war, yet he did what he did, I think 2 weeks ago, and then bombing all those three nuclear sites in Iran. It's complicated, and at the same time, I think it's very important for us today to remove the noise. I think the noise that I meant here is that whatever that Trump says cannot be regarded as facts anymore. I'm sorry to say that, but even though you're the most powerful person in the world, but judging for what happened in the last few months since he was elected as the president, especially in this conflict, every time he says something, it would mean something else. He said he's not going to help or intervene in this Israel-Iran conflict. Yet again, he did. He said he will remember we talked about the South African episode. Same thing as well. There was a genocide, but in actual fact, there was not genocide. So this is a man, powerful man in the world, yet he's spewing fake news or something to confuse the world community. And particularly, Adi, when the Trump, after just like 48 hours after the Iran strike on Israel, he jumped the gun and says ceasefire agreed by Iran and Israel. And then when media asked a spokesperson from both sides, Israel and Iran, they says there's no such thing. Iran didn't agree anything on a ceasefire. All this is like a noise created, but what is the actual fact right now? And you are right using the word chaos right now, because I don't know what we should pay attention more here. Is it Iran tried? Going against the IAEA regulations? Do they actually developing uranium until 90% to make a weapon-grade uranium? Is that the case? What's the statement by U.S. intelligence in February compared to now? So these are facts by the international body, instead of just one person saying that, oh yeah, Iran definitely developing 2 weeks away. He said, Netanyahu says the infamous word, 2 weeks away from developing a full-blown nuclear weapon. It's always 2 weeks away since, I don't know, the last 20 years he said that. So yeah, you wanna untangle this mess?
I definitely would find it very difficult to untangle this mess. I'm still trying to untangle a lot of the mess that the US's relationship with Iran for the longest time, for many decades, I think is perfectly summed up by saying it is a tangled mess. from the removal of the democratic government and installing the Shah, from the Shah being removed and the Islamic regime taking place, and then all the manner of intrigue, political intrigue, Cold War intrigue that took place during the Cold War, when we've seen US meddling with Iran to sell weapons and arms to the Contras in Nicaragua. So this is a very storied relationship, one that points fingers at one another, finds ways to dislodge one another's influence in the region. You've seen America attempting to put in proxies or put in individuals that can push their interests in Iran as well. You see the people of Iran also having their own initiative to fight back against what they feel is a repressive and brutal theocratic regime. We see that regime trying to embed itself even deeper into Iranian governance. And we see it all completely unraveling now. We see that Iran, I feel, is a very critical point, because I think last year we talked about their presidential election. We talked about the unfortunate death of their past president, Ibrahim Raisi, and then and Pezeshkian coming into power. And then we talked about the succession plan for Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, saying that he's not getting any younger, he's not as dynamic, or having to rely a lot on his subordinates, on all the other ayatollahs to make sure that the theocracy runs. And then we see all the whispers saying that will he be succeeded by his son. We see also his relationship with the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, who is the backbone of a lot of the legitimacy behind the Iranian government. We've seen a lot of the members of the Revolutionary Guard being killed by Israel. So it's unraveling at the seams here. The country is being unraveled with the structure that it has been, I would say, indirectly set up by foreign interference. And now with that very shaky foundation, we've seen that the pressure being put onto it. Can it really weather the storm this time around? It has done that before, but can it be this time around with this renewed sense of aggression, a new mode of warfare, which is more to do, I wouldn't say new, but it's a different method of how Iran and Israel usually engages one another, or how America usually engages with Iran, right? You see, it would be embargoes or proxy wars, or empowering their local resistance fighters, or undermine the influence of the other. So it's come to a head. But I think Haffiz, we've covered a lot of flare-ups and conflicts in other places around the world as well. And we noticed, I think the pattern is that there's a flare-up, and then somehow there's a cooling period, which now we've seen with the ceasefire and potential for peace deals and all that. But there's always that underlying tension that tends to be forgotten, and then it's going to flare up again, and we're going to be asking the same questions again. How did this happen when the bulwarks prior weren't actually worked on or properly developed? So I feel there's going to be a repeat of the same pattern that we've seen, a flare-up of tensions that will be violent at the expense of innocent people, and then someone step in and say that, no, we got to get our act together. We have to maintain peace in the region. It cools down, but there's that underlying tension and resentment for one another never gets resolved or never gets talked about. And then we see the process repeat itself every 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, do you remember when we talk about the Hezbollah's case of getting hacked, the pager again? Iran at the same time arrested, I think, around 700 to 1,000 allegedly spies for Israel. So we know already during that case that how the Mossad actually infiltrate their pages and then install this so-called explosive inside the pager. And that's what happening as well with the spies that they caught in Iran. There's actually also several drones at site as well. So I think when we talk about it, if you are in the Iran shoes, right, how, paranoid can you be as a country must be like always at all-time high security alert with all of this. And now they found out that there are around 700 spies. The one that they caught, the one that didn't caught, no one knows. And these kind of numbers, it's not small, 700s of them. And it could just put Iran securities into questions here. Like, what is going on? Iran have one of the most watched, closely monitored nuclear program. IAEA doing inspections a lot every time Israel, US, all the Western powers always ever ready to scrutinize Iran's nuclear program. Yet we can see such a response. And do you remember also when Israel attacked Iran, the spokespersons of, I think, the foreign minister of Iran says that they were expecting, because on that Sunday, Iran was attacked on Friday. On that Sunday, they were planning for a negotiation for the nuclear program negotiations. So they were caught off guard by the attack from Israel. Again, yes, you are in negotiations, but should you be using that as an excuse? Because it shows that your country is not really that well prepared for anything, any possibility, especially if you are in that region. So I think it's kind of lame excuse also from the Iranian side that, there's a spy in our soil. Oh, we caught off guard because we are in the middle of negotiations. This is totally unacceptable. You are under the heaviest scrutiny by the international community, yet you still playing, I wouldn't say dumb, but come on, Iran. I mean, you can pick up yours legs as well. That's on Iran side. For the US also, I think, remember that Operation Midnight Hammer is they deploy this very silent, out of the radar, cannot be detected by radar, try to bomb these three nuclear sites in Iran. And Trump says it was successful. We obliterate their nuclear sites. And a day after that, IAEA confirmed there was no any level of leakages of uranium. And then 3 days after that, U.S. intelligence reports that there was not much of damage done to these nuclear sites. So we have a 2.1 billion so-called stealth plane dropping a very so-called bunker buster bomb to these nuclear sites, yet the damage is very little. I mean, is this a drama? Is this a soap drama that we, unwillingly or sleepwalking into, that this is another Grey's Anatomy kind of level or Squid Game kind of drama? Because whatever the Trump or Iran actually say or tell doesn't match with the action. So all these untelly facts and figures confirmed by third party like IAEA, like US intelligence, on intelligence, not Chinese intelligence, not Russian intelligence. I mean, so it's very hard to believe. And again, going back to being a chaos, I don't know what I'm saying, but now that Netanyahu is being pressed by the court now for his some, I think, corruption cases, still acting like it's just another normal day in Israel, because what we are actually seeing on, I don't know, social media, whatever, all those footage of bombs exploding in Tel Aviv or in Haifa, is this even true? So I don't know, but what is the latest development? What is true is that now that Israel wants Golan Heights, which is part of Syria and Lebanon, and they want it to be part of Israel. That is worrying, because that means that the other places in the region, like Jordan, whatever, they would allow this to happen. Because if that happens, any country that bordering with Israel could be potentially happening as well, like Golan Heights.
But yeah, let's try zoom this back into the wider Middle Eastern region here. Okay, I don't think a lot of the Middle Eastern countries are going to be rushing to support Iran now, are they? Iran's reputation amongst the other Middle Eastern countries hasn't been the most glowing. Let's look at Iran's allies in the region. They have the Houthis in Yemen, they have Hezbollah, and they have in Gaza, they have their own allies as well. Now, you won't see a lot of Middle Eastern countries, the ones that should be stepping up to say that, hey, they would be the most sensible people to say that, let us have some kind of restraint here, right? But if we look at to a lot of the, let's say, Arab countries, they've always had this very dysfunctional relationship with Iran. You won't see Iraq coming to rushing to Iran's defense anytime soon after they've warred each other several times as well. You already see a lot of the Gulf countries also taking more of a page from the American playbook. They seem to be more on aligning to the approach that the USA has taken. So Iran is quite in a pickle here as well in terms of asserting themselves in the region, because what is true is that on this matter, a lot of Middle Eastern countries will push their differences aside to say that, okay, we will stand on a lot of things like against Israel, but at the same time, we're not going to stop you from doing anything to Iran, right? That seems to be the general approach taken by the Middle Eastern countries, right? And even some would be even secretly hoping that it would undermine Iranian influence in the region as well, right? A very weird and very dysfunctional dynamic here. I think we have this perception that it seems that the Middle East is a monolithic group of people or countries that seem to have the same anti-Western sentiment, which they don't. A lot of them tend to be even pro-Western. Iran is that bastion of anti-Western sentiment. You can say Iraq was at one point, but we saw what happened with Iraq. We saw America come in and depose Saddam, and so in a way, Iran here is also on its own in a lot of ways, embargoed, then forced, and a lot of the international community is forced to uphold those embargoes, right? So that is one factor to consider, is that Iran here may not have as many legitimate allies as many people think. We have to stop thinking that, we have to stand, but well, the Middle East itself is not standing united on this particular matter. And then second is, because Haffisz, you mentioned about the role of intelligence here, right? The role of intelligence agencies ensuring that the proper information, the proper intel is given so that counterintelligence and countermeasures are able to be deployed, right? We've seen governments staging actions that undermine their own country as well. We've seen, like when we talk about American intelligence, right? Let's not forget the Americans sold weapons to Iran so that they can fund freedom fighters in Nicaragua. And they know that selling weapons to Iran will give it to Afghanistan, right? So they have been in cahoots on particular things when it aligns their interests. And this is the same regardless. This is not an ideological situation here, right? This is a very pragmatic one and driven by a lot of these intelligence agencies, right? A lot of times you can see the CIA acting not in alignment or in tandem with Congress or with the Senate or even with the US executives, right? That's what they call the deep state. You see that the intelligence agencies may not work hand in hand with the state. They do their own thing, right? So we might see a lot of CIA intelligence also happening on the ground to ensure that their interests in Iran, which may not align with the executive, like the president's interests as well. The same could be said for Iran as well. We cannot assume that the Ayatollah has complete discretion and authority over the entire country, right? Iran's a big country and not a lot, even though it is quite centralized in terms of rules it has, but you have it being authority split up amongst, you can say, theocratic warlords, right? So you wouldn't know if one of these parties also, or even the Revolutionary Guard has its own interest in the matter. It's the same with a lot of other countries in the region. Pakistan, we've seen the military exercising more power compared to the democratic elected government as well. So when we look at what government does and what it says, sometimes we can take it from the perception that, well, they're saying one thing, they're doing another, right? They're just, their fingers are like this at the back of their hand, at the back, behind their backs. But it could be different parties saying different things. We're not immune to it as well. We've seen many cases here in Malaysia where the authorities do one thing, then straight away the Prime Minister comes up and says, no, we don't do that kind of thing. And then there's confusion there, right? So it could be the same for any country in any conflict. And with a conflict this messy and this confusing, it's not impossible to assume there are how many actors all pushing their interests at the same time and in competition with one another. Sometimes they could work with one another. Maybe some elements in Iran are in cooperation with the Americans, with some elements in the Israeli government as well, right? But you also have other elements of government in Iran that may be ideologically opposed to the West, right? But you cannot assume that it is all we cannot assume it's monolithic. So yeah,
especially when you have Donald Trump as president, so everything's on steroid when it comes to misinformations and whatnot. I mean, there's a lot of things that we can unwrap or hear, whatever. But I think it's very important for us to pay attention to what's happening, development to this news again, because this is some expert may say that this conflict will last probably 2 or 3 years. So it's gonna be Ukraine and Russia again. Like, I mean, people stop paying attention to Ukraine and Russia after what, 6 or 8 months it's been going on, and now Iran. I think people already like getting tired, fatigue from all this war news coming in left, right, and center as well. So nevertheless, this is still is interesting. If you are into geopolitics, this is still interesting to pay attention to, especially the country that let's not fail to mention here, the China also met their presence in the Middle East, especially in the nearby Hormuz Strait, where they locate some of their navy ships over there to make sure that everything in check, especially when China is importing 90% of the oil from Iran, and that oil has to go through the Hormuz Strait. So, of course, China want to protect their own interests, so do other countries as well. But hey, whoever has the control to say that we gonna do a roadblock at this Hormuz Straits, and that's gonna be the Iran have the final say. I think that's it for this episode so far. We definitely gonna be talking about this as well. So if you think we should cover certain topics or certain points or certain point of view you think that we missed out on, so please comment down below so that we can talk about it. Any last word from you, Adi, on this topic?
Such a huge topic to cover, and we're definitely missing something out. A lot of critical things we're definitely but yeah, we would like to look into this issue even more if we can, if we have the time. We should got developments going on, because we love Iran. I mean, I love Iran. I love the history of Iran. I've always wanted to visit. I want to take a look at one of the older civilizations of the world. So seeing anything to do with conflict there always makes me quite upset, and I hope any kind of tensions or conflict will be resolved in a peaceful and responsible manner, wishful thinking, so that we can all enjoy the beauty that Iran has to offer to the world. So with that said, thank you, and we'll see you on the next episode.
And next episode, as always, we are going from international to Malaysia, and that would be something that's involving two political figures. Want to find out more? See you in the next episode.